Good evening. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Director meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during citizens' participation section of the meeting. The board will not tolerate public outbursts or disruptions, nor will it tolerate comments made outside a citizen participation portion of the meeting. Public comment is welcome, and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board, committee, or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment to silence any cell phones or any other electronic devices. Brooke, everybody's present except for Mr. Morris, who's been excused this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I believe we have two. Dr. Matsler, you want to go first?
Sure. Just wanted to say that I had an opportunity this weekend to attend the high school musical, the production of Into the Woods. It was fantastic, and I just want to congratulate all the staff and students involved in that production.
And then a similar line, just wanted to thank the FFA group at the high school for inviting us out to their breakfast on Friday morning. Dr. Match and I were able to attend. A number of the students and officers, their parents, they spoke a lot about kind of what FFA has done for them, and really incredible public speakers, the students that are involved with that program. So it was great to be there with them on Friday. So that's it.
Thank you. That brings us to citizens' participation. I'm going to turn this over to Mike. Mike.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. President. We have 8 speakers this evening. Our first speaker will be Ms. Jill Graham-Whitmore.
Thank you. Good evening, School Board. The policy of making our coaches go through this every year needs to be reworked. I'm coming to you today as a mom of an 8th grader that is involved with the football and wrestling programs. Our coaches are dedicated to our kids. You hired an unbiased athletic director and superintendent that should be making these decisions with the stamp of approval from the board. School boards should not be interjecting their biased opinions in the hiring process. What is the purpose for having an athletic director, principal, and superintendent if you're not going to allow them to do their jobs? Coach Heiser has already planned his off-season and preseason. You have allowed him to get to March. March. It is March. And now you're doing this to him? That speaks volumes that the board is not here for our children. This is unnecessary to do to our coaches. Everyone is impacted by this process. The coaches, the players, and families. The coaches of our wrestling and football programs are dedicated to our children, their sports, and to our community. Every year you are taking time away from our athletes because you make the coaches go through this process of the unknown fulfillment of their contracts. These coaches continue to work for our children knowing that there is a possibility that they may not be honored their contract. This speaks volumes on their dedication to the athletes. Coach Heiser has already made contact with the players of the co-op, and those players are impressed that he has reached out to them. So now you're thinking of cleaning house, as some members of the board have stated in the community. Is this an unbiased statement from the board members? I don't think so. The board needs to be unbiased and do what is in the best interest of our athletes and our community. Coach Moyer, you were a coach when you coached at Fairfield, Bermudian, Southwest, and I think New Oxford. Unless you violated your contract, you probably were awarded it. I know you worked for the students during school or during the season, and I know you worked for them in the off season. I played during that time. I watched you. Now, put yourself in our coaches' shoes and our players and our families. Coach Heiser has not violated any policy. Coach Haynes hasn't violated any policy, and you made him go through this last year. He brought you a district championship. He's going to have to go through this process again. I leave you with this. You're here for our program to be successful or you're not. It seems like some biased opinions are being interjected. Coach Heiser is a dedicated coach. Whether you like his philosophy or not, his players work for him. His players show up for him. His players like him. His players play for him. And that's the bottom line. It's not us, the parents. It's not you, the board. It's these guys sitting right here. They're the ones that play for him, no one else. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Justine Sig.
Good evening. I am here again tonight to express the ongoing concerns many parents have for our student athletes and coaches. I am addressing these concerns because it's been 2 weeks since the last board meeting and the coaching staff for the football team is still in limbo. There's been no communication to let the student athletes or Coach Heiser know who will be coaching them next season. As you may know, a petition supporting Coach Heiser and urging the repeal of the 2023 board policy mandating the annual posting of coaching positions has garnered over 500 signatures from our community. This policy has raised concerns about the morale of our coaching staff and the ability to retain quality coaches. I have talked to several coaches in this district, and not a single one of them support this policy. Why would they? They work their hardest to build strong programs and solid culture, and then have to see that their position is open. It's sad. I would like to remind you of the board policy, stating that the primary function of the board is to establish policies while leaving the administration to the superintendent and staff. It is concerning that despite hearing from many student athletes at the last meeting, there has been no communication regarding Coach Heiser's position for next season. Here are 3 comments that I pulled from the petition. Comment 1, the GASD school board needs to take an honest look at what this ridiculous policy is doing to players, students, and coaches. There are many great coaches within the district. Unless there is blatant reason, the district should renew contracts without forcing them to reapply yearly. What is the common sense? Where is the common sense and regard for the best interest of the students you serve? Stop this demoralizing practice now. Second comment. After listening to the last school board meeting, it's very clear what a positive impact Coach Heiser is having on his athletes, and it would be a disservice to them to lose such a positive role model. In general, it's odd to me that the board is involved in such personnel matters rather than focusing on broader issues as budgets, policies, etc. It seems that board's personal agendas are negatively impacting students, staff, and the district families as great educators and coaches are leaving for other districts, being forced out, or in some cases not hired, and a less qualified candidate is selected. Please do better. Our kids deserve it. And the last comment I pulled, Matt Heiser is a wonderful coach, and it would be foolish not to keep him. I urge you to reconsider the 2023 policy as it contributes to a climate of uncertainty among our coaches. The athletic director should conduct annual reviews and determine the coaching staff, not this school board. It is extremely important to the student athletes and parents of football players that you communicate with Coach Heiser and all of our athletic coaches. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Our next speaker is Jamie Gebhardt.
All right, I have 3 comments that follow the petition. One is from Susan. She states, the football program is fortunate to have such an asset like Coach Heiser. The board should not have a say in who gets hired to coach the children in our community. The man has coached all my children in some capacity throughout his coaching career at GHS. He has never shown anything but pure confidence in me as a parent. I cannot imagine the program not having him involved. We are tax-paying members of this community, and our voices should also be heard. Jane writes, I know the hours and personal sacrifices Matt has made over the years in order to coach and mentor the young men he cares about. What is occurring is a travesty and should never even have happened. Ben writes, I have personally seen the effect he has had in shaping my nephew into the young man he has become. Coach Heiser is not all about winning on the field. He's about winning in life. It would be foolish to replace him. Now, on a side note, on a personal note, my son's got a broken elbow. He had to go through 4 hours of surgery to get it fixed. He's determined to get better, to play for Coach Heiser. He only wants to play for Coach Heiser. So, please reconsider opening up this position. It's not just him, it's the rest of the boys that I'm worried about. I think they all want to pay for Coach Heiser. And while I understand Fairfield wants to come over here, during negotiations, you have to remember they came to us, we didn't go to them. It should be about our kids, not their kids. It feels like you guys are putting their kids ahead of ours. Gettysburg first. Remember, they came to us, we didn't go to them. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Jody Leedy.
I have the shy 8th grade group. My name is Jody Leedy. I'm a parent of a rising freshman, Brett Leedy. This one. He is here tonight with his 8th grade classmates and teammates, Kane Sigg, Jaden Spencer, and Reed Whitmore. This group of young men started integrating into the high school program the spring of their 7th grade year, when they started going to Coach Heiser after school lifting. They then continued with the program by playing up this year to the 9th grade football team as 8th graders. They have had nothing short of an amazing experience acclimating themselves to the high school program. Were they nervous last year entering the weight room as lowly 7th graders? Absolutely. But those nerves quickly went away thanks to the welcoming culture and team atmosphere created by Coach Heiser and his senior leaders. Last summer, during sports physicals that were held here at the school, I witnessed firsthand this welcoming culture. There I sat with Brett as a rising 8th grader, and Reed, where's he? He was there. In walks senior quarterback Brady Heiser, along with, I think it was Preston, and maybe a few other teammates. What happened next stunned me as a mom and spoke volumes to me as a fine young man on this football team and the overall culture and leadership of the program. They fist bumped these younger boys and talked to them about lifting and talked about them coming to lifting. I was shocked and super impressed that upperclassmen would be so welcoming to these younger boys half their size, because that wouldn't have happened back in the day. It wasn't cool for the upperclassmen to talk to the low man on the pole. These boys have continued to be welcomed and encouraged by the older players in the weight room, and this past Saturday at the first spring throw-around practice. They had a lot of fun, they got in some practice, they continued to be welcomed by the upperclassmen. But at this practice, there was one thing that remained on everyone's minds. Will Coach Heiser still be their coach? It seems you delayed or changed your mind in posting the football coaching position, yet no one knows where it actually stands. We all ask you to please communicate the status of the football coaching position. Will it still be open, or is it Coach Heiser's? Because these student athletes deserve to know who will be their coach next year. And we all commend Coach Heiser for his continuing his commitment and dedication to this team by organizing school lifts and the Saturday throw-arounds, and more to come in the spring, I'm sure, even though he really doesn't truly know where he stands with all of you. We ask you to please make a clear decision and hope that that decision is for Matt Heiser to remain as head coach so we can put this uncertainty behind us and Coach Heiser can continue leading this group of fine young men to be the best leaders and teammates they can be and carry on with all their spring and summer preseason activities. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Reese Sigg.
Hi, I'm here tonight in support of Coach Heiser. Here are a few comments from students that signed the petition in support of Coach Heiser. From William, in middle school and into freshman year, I was dealing with a lot of mental stresses, including my parents getting a divorce. Throughout freshman year, I had Coach Heiser's class almost every week. He'd make a comment stating that I should try out for football. At the end of freshman year, I did. I went to the weight room all summer and started to feel a sense of community in the team, all led and held together by Coach Heiser. Throughout my 3 years of playing under Heiser, I knew I was not as good as people in my grade or even the younger kids. but Heiser would still give me opportunities to play and would not treat me or any other players different. Taking Heiser out of Gettysburg football is like taking flour out of a cake. It will simply not work. Heiser isn't just a coach, he is cared for and an admired member in our community. From Garrett. Coach Heiser was my coach at Boiling Springs High School. No other coach believed in my abilities more than him. I owe a lot of my confidence to Coach Heiser, even to this day. And by Dakota. Coach Heiser is the best coach in the state, if not the nation. When I was in Gettysburg, I always had Coach Heiser to talk to, so let him keep his job. Please don't remove Coach Heiser from our high school football team. It will ruin the entire program for years to come. We all need Coach Heiser in this football program. Thank you.
Thank you, Reese. Our next speaker is Logan Sigg.
I don't have any notes. I'm going to wing this. As you can see, if the board doesn't like outside speculation on topics like this, then there needs to be better communication and better transparency. Rumor is that this is an internal matter, but as you can see, it's quite external by the amount of people that have showed up in support for Coach Heiser now twice. I volunteer as the strength coach for our District 3 champion wrestling program, both the girls and the boys, sending 4 boys and 6 girls to states this weekend. And during the entire season, I get the luxury of being up on the track weight room with the wrestling team. And from that vantage point, I get to watch this group of guys train off season. The amount of work, the planning, the timing, the programming in the weight room, is this just a small fraction of what goes into running a successful football program? To try to say that in March we're going to upend this and bring in another coach to organize football really displays the fact that whoever came up with this policy or this exact decision truly is not qualified to hire a high school football coach. So consider that then.
Our next speaker is Wade Leedy.
Good evening. I'm here once again to discuss the possible opening of the Gettysburg area head football coach position. At this very moment, the job has not been posted on the district website or on Indeed after it was alleged to be posted on Friday, February 21st, and then again this past Friday, February 28th. It has been 3 weeks since the news of opening the position broke and 2 weeks since the last board meeting. A meeting where this room was filled with current players and parents, some of whom spoke in support of Coach Heiser and what he means to them. I stood before you all and warned of the consequences that opening the position at this time will have on the 2025 team and those student athletes. Here we are, 2 weeks later, and nothing has changed. I am happy to see that it has not been posted, but no relief has truly been felt because it seems no one has any answers on whether or not the position may still be opened or if Coach Heiser should continue acting as head football coach. I'd like to point out that the lack of communication by the board is only exacerbating these consequences and are causing questions and concerns throughout the community that no one has answers for. And frankly, it's a pretty bad look for Gettysburg as a whole. Is Coach Heiser going to be retained, or is his position going to be reopened as previously stated? Without knowing if Coach Heiser is being retained or not, those in the community are questioning if the youth flag football program will occur this spring. This is a program that Coach Heiser created during his time here and is staffed by assistant coaches and players. If you do not know, this program typically has about 100 participants that age from 7 to 12, and it gives high school players a chance to volunteer their time to become mentors to the youth. Additionally, the spring recruiting day set to be held on May 12th at Warrior Stadium is also up in the air. I'm sure the neighboring schools who attend are wondering the status of this event as well. If you're unfamiliar with this event, it's an evening organized by Coach Heiser where other local and semi-local college coaches are invited to the stadium to meet with and scout any players that wish to continue their football career past high school. This is a great event to get our players exposure to college coaches, but is also just as valuable to the neighboring high schools and players who attend the evening as well. Lastly, there seems to be some confusion as to whether or not the head football coach position was opened and closed in November. I saw the petition advertised with my own eyes. In fact, I'm holding up a screenshot from the district website of a completed application for the position of head coach dated November 5th, 2024. As you can see, the position was advertised and it was closed without any changes being made to staffing. There is absolutely no reason to reopen this position again at this time, and doing so will only harm our student athletes. It is time to end this charade. Let Coach Heiser know he is indeed the coach for 2025 and allow him to move forward with all necessary preparations for the 2025 season. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dante Howard.
My name is Dante Howard, and I'm currently a sophomore at Gettysburg Area High School. Today, I'm speaking not just as a student athlete, but as someone whose life has been profoundly... But as someone whose life has profoundly been impacted by Coach Heiser. I know there's been talk about his position possibly being in jeopardy, and I felt it is crucial to share my story in hopes you will reconsider. Last summer, I received life-changing news that my family would be moving. And at first, I wasn't sure where I was going. Despite the uncertainty, I continued attending workouts to get better until my father told me where I was going. And he told me Gettysburg. I instantly researched the football program and saw potential in what I can do and be a part of it. For 2 months before I was even able to move, and that was where I originally lived. I would travel each day an hour just to attend the workouts, just so I can get an opportunity to show my face and get better and get to know everybody. It was exhausting, especially for my father, who drove an hour every day after work. Coach Heiser, knowing this and very little about me, stepped in to help me and offered to help me and my father get up and down each day. That simple act of kindness changed everything for me. Coach Heiser didn't just help me through football. He sat me down and talked to me about life, college, and what I wanted to do in my future. He made me feel valued, not just as a player, but as a person. From the moment I arrived in Gettysburg, he and his family welcomed me. His son Brady made sure I felt included and introduced me to the team. On my first day, Coach got me a helmet and jersey right away, making me feel like part of the family. The first practice, I made a breakout interception, and the team cheers made me feel like I finally belong. Beyond football, Coach Heiser even offered me to walk me to every class my first week of school. That level of care is rare, and it shows how much he cares about his players as young men, not just as athletes. Coach Heiser built a culture of trust, leadership, and family within this program. He's more than just a coach. He's a mentor, role model, and the heart of the team. If he were to leave it wouldn't just be the loss for the team, it would be a loss for us all as individuals. I ask that you reconsider the incredible impact Coach Heiser has had on me and so many others. Please reconsider any decision to remove him. He deserves to continue lead this team. We as players need him. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. That wraps up our participation from the public this evening.
That brings us, routine approvals. There's been a request to separate one of the items from the bundle. So 5.1 through 5.4 will be one motion, 5.1 being the agenda. 5.2, the regular board minutes, February 3rd, 2025. 5.3, regular board minutes, February 18th, 2025. And 5.4, the approval of Jacoby transportation drivers. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Question? Hearing no question, roll call. Cindy?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 5.5 is the last of the routine approvals. It's related to the HR, Human Resources recommendations. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question?
Not a question, but just a quick comment. I believe Mike Rupp is on this one as a resignation. Am I right? I just wanted to say, I think he's been in the district about 15 or 16 years, and I think he's done a great job. And I think we're going to really miss him at the high school, and I wish him the best as the new principal at the intermediate school at Conewaga Valley. Thank you, Mike, in case you're listening tonight.
Doesn't make a difference. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jason.
Also in the HR report, we have Dr. Matzner going to be voted on for superintendent of schools starting July 1. I've worked with him closely since he's been here. District's fortunate to have him here. Bright guy, and things will only get better. And also, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Maxner, or actually, to follow up on Al on Mike Rupp. Mike worked in the math department at the high school before transitioning to an administrative position. If you haven't had a chance to know or work with Mike, whether you had kids in the district or from whatever other perspective, you certainly missed a gentleman, both a teacher and administrator, that was deeply committed to the district. So losing him is not going to be an easy task to fill, in my opinion. And, of course, we announced Dr. Perrin would not be with us at the end of last week's or 2 weeks ago's meeting. And but the board is equally excited and happy that Dr. Matzner has agreed to the contract that's going to be voted on here this evening. And we certainly welcome aboard and believe the district's in the right hands moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Are there any additional questions on 5.5 HR report? Hearing none, roll call. Jeremy?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Michelle?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Cindy?
No.
And I vote yes. Brings us 2 items for board action. This evening, the board only has 1 item. It's 6.1. It's the Gettysburg Area School District School Board. If you recall, this was discussed at length 2 weeks ago, both from the financial aspect of it and from the PowerPoint presentation by our illustrious business salesperson, Belinda. Belinda, is there anything additional that the board would need? Actually, let me have a motion and we'll go that direction. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, question.
Question for Cody. Cody, how confident are you that through fundraising efforts we'll be able to recoup the vast majority of those funds? Or whoever I should be asking that question to? Dr. Perrin, Dr. Matzer?
If I may, on behalf of Cody, he's done a lot of the legwork, so to speak, as to touching base with WellSpan. WellSpan is one of our top contributors, and they have already agreed to contribute $50,000, $10,000 a year for the next 5 years. So we are in the midst of reaching out to the other sponsors that we've had with the present scoreboard, and once we do so of that based upon the board's approval, then we'll be also reaching out to other community businesses to see about. So we are fairly confident that we'll have the reimbursement and/or the advertisements before the 5-year mark to be fully reimbursed.
Thank you, and fantastic. That's fantastic.
Are there any additional questions before the vote? Roll call. Cindy?
No.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
No.
Alice?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Kenny, can I just say
Yes.
something
Yes, go ahead.
about my vote?
Yes.
It's not that I don't want to see a new scoreboard there, because I hate seeing that scoreboard that we have there. It's broken. It looks like crap. But I can't, with a good conscience, vote to spend money without knowing that we have the fundraising done up front. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Brings us to our informational items. 7.1 is the Gettysburg Middle School Mathematics Resource.
Yeah, I have that on as an information item again this week as a reminder to the board that I have samples of the new resource we're hoping that you'll approve at the next board meeting for middle school math grades 6 to 8. So if you'd like to check those out, just reach out, let me know.
And that's just a reminder, this is vetted and recommended by the middle school mathematics department, correct?
Correct.
7.2,
Can I ask a
I'm
question
sorry.
first?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask some questions? Dr. Massner, do you have a cost for this program?
Yes, I do. It's $53,000 for a 3-year purchase.
And this is just for middle school.
Correct, grades 6 through 8.
So last meeting, Mrs. Kaywood was here, and she was talking about, she said about the math program and how the kids, there's whiteboards and there's kids up and out of their seats and they're doing great in math. Why do we need a new program if she's touting how great that one was?
Part of the reason is our current contract with Everyday Math is ending for 6th grade, and the middle school math team as a whole was looking for something that would show some more continuity across all grade levels, 6 through 8. Right now, they use they're piecemealing things together and use different. 7th and 8th grade uses something different than 6th grade. So they wanted to search for something now that we have an opportunity with the contract expiring to show more continuity across grade levels. So the committee, all the math teachers got together. We went through 3 or 4 different programs, and they all agreed that this one was the one that was best for what the middle school wants to do. It does still include a lot of those things that Ms. Kaywood mentioned last week with some of the ancillary materials and a very strong online component as well, and will definitely benefit our middle school students.
Is there any reason why we can't write our own curriculum? We keep talking about how great our teachers are and they can do all this. So I'm just wondering.
Agreed. And the program.
Can we do that?
The program that we're using, that we're going to be purchasing, is basically a resource for our teachers to use. So the teachers are still going to be teaching the standards. This is just the resource that they'll use to teach those standards. It'll allow our teachers to have some creativity and flexibility in the classroom while teaching the standards that they need to teach.
Plus, more importantly, whenever you're purchasing curriculum and primary resources, not only were the programs written, but they were tested over a period of years. So they're research based. So the materials show growth in students and growth in learning. So that if you write your own material, by the time you would test validity and to see if it might actually work, you'd be 4 years down the road. Plus, it'd be pretty expensive to release 5 teachers for 2 years to write the curriculum, and then probably another year. So basically, we're benefiting to a degree from a lot of work from other people that have already done the legwork, trying to pick a program that is going to help us increase achievement. Growth scores have been good, but we still want to increase achievement. So this is what the teachers felt would be the best program to help us increase achievement. So that's the direction that we're recommending that the board approve.
And just one last comment on that. Our curriculum cycle is basically every 5 or so years. We look at renewing resources or curriculum for each different subject. The current books that the 7th and 8th grade middle school math teachers are using are 2015 books, so it was time to upgrade them anyway.
Did math change since 2015?
Did math change? The resources have changed. Some of the standards have changed, yes.
And instructional strategies change constantly. The way kids learn change. The way we teach kids change. Certainly the math classes that I sat in out in Dorseyville, Pennsylvania in 1976 are different than the ones these kids are sitting in. So yeah, the resources change. The ideas, the big ideas and the concepts might not change. So you might still be learning systems of equations or solving for multivariable fractions or whatever the content might be. That might not have changed, but the way that we deliver it and the tools that we give our teachers and their toolbox to deliver it is really kind of paramount to what we do if you strip it all down. There's nothing more important.
Actually, I want to make a comment because I had a friend of mine actually has a 3rd grader, and she gave me one of her homework assignments. Her mom couldn't help her do it. And it's not because she's stupid or she doesn't understand math. But I got to tell you, we're missing the boat with these kids not learning how to do their multiplication tables off the top of their head. And I know everybody's like, oh, you don't have to memorize things. You really do. So that's all I have to say about that. But one more question. You said this is a 3-year
Correct.
contract, but then you said we do things every 5 years. So are you going to tell me in 3 years that we have to renew this contract, or can we continue to use it? How's that going to work?
Oh, we should be able to continue to use it, and we would like to renew it in 3 years once we're done, depending on, hopefully we'll see the growth that we hope to see. Again, we're replacing everyday math in 6th grade, which I know has been around for a lot longer than 3 years. And we have a committee of K-5 teachers looking at what we're going to use next in elementary school, because again, they're using everyday math K through 5 as well. And everyday math is an old curriculum that we need to replace, and we're looking at something to speak on what you're talking about with fact fluency. That's going to be very heavy in fact fluency, because that is important. I agree.
Any additional questions? Sounds like you taught math before you got here.
A long time ago.
Okay. I was getting that rhythm. No additional questions. We'll move on. 7.2, the administration building renovation and design proposal. Are there any questions on an informational item? Hearing none. 7.3 is the 2025-2028 district comprehensive plan. Any questions?
I have some.
Go ahead, Michelle.
That's me once again.
Okay, so I read the comprehensive plan, actually read it. Couple questions. So how do you pick the people who are on the steering committee?
So I did send an email out, asked for some volunteers. I went to the building principals and asked the principals as well for some volunteers to get some volunteers from their building, both teachers and different staff members. Invited both Al Moyer and Alice Broadway to be on the committee as well. So the committee was comprised of board members, parents, staff. We had a few students on the committee as well. And the student recommendations were made by the building principals.
All right, so as I went down through that, the Future Ready Index, one of the things for challenges was that no groups at the high school met the target in any of the keystone subjects. No groups in the middle school met targets in ELA or math. But then that was followed by a next box that said 8th grade scored well above in math and science. So I'm just confused on what.
There was a bit
what
of a
that meant.
difference in some of the data between achievement and growth, which we had talked about during our committee, and we had talked about that actually at a previous board meeting when I went through the data last April. The difference between achievement and growth. The achievement is basically how the students do on the state assessments, and then when you're talking about growth, you're talking about the students progressing from the beginning of the year to the end of the year.
Okay, and then I noticed on there, under career and technology ed, it said that only 19.7% scored competent or advanced on the NOCTI test. But Mr. Lusk was here the other couple meetings ago and made it sound like we were doing really great with those scores.
The data that we had when the committee started on the comprehensive plan was the 22-23 data. So when Mr. Lusk was here a couple meetings ago, may have been more recent data.
Okay. And then just a couple more, I promise.
Sure.
It said that we were going to partner with local businesses, employers, community organizations, and agencies to meet the needs of the students. Can you tell me what type of needs you're referring to, and how do you see the community in helping to fill those needs?
Well, one of the things that came up in the needs assessment that the committee conducted was just a need to basically be more out in the community and partner with our local businesses for anything that we need. We're talking about scoreboard, anything that we may need here in the district. We have resources in the community that I feel and the committee feel are untapped resources, and we want to make sure we include those people.
Can you just give me an example?
Well, I just did. If we're talking about, fundraising for different things, even as far as
job shadowing local businesses.
And again, even I know our elementary schools do some things with junior achievement where they're looking for volunteers to come into the buildings and reaching out to communities to get volunteers to come into the buildings as well.
Okay, that's all I had. Just wanted to make sure I was clear on what I was reading.
I do not have a question related to that, but more towards Belinda. And Belinda, I apologize, I need to ask this in public because there was one or two emails that came to the board, and they went to, at least on my end, I thought it came to the whole board, but it came to me and it went into a junk file, and it was related to demographic study, and I think you and I spoke about that. So for transparency, we hear that word. The demographic study was initiated and is initiated by the district that looks out at a 5 and a 10-year marker, correct?
That is correct. We reached out to Stedman and asked for another demographic study to be done. We have been in contact with him. Last time was 2 weeks ago, right before the board meeting, and he and his wife have had several medical issues and, just delaying the project in of itself. He indicated that he was going to be hopeful by the end of this month. Of course, again, the end of the month came, February is gone. So we need to reach back out to him this week to find out if there's an additional update, because I do know he had several appointments and he was uncertain if he could finalize it by the end of February. So we haven't paid for anything at this particular point in time. We're just waiting for him to issue the report so we can have the report as well as issue payment for any services that he has done.
Yeah, and I don't mean to, it's not driven by me, and I don't know if it's even driven by the board, but I won't speak for any other board members. It's definitely not by me, but I know that we've had comment to the board both publicly and through email, and I think, and I don't want to speak for them, but I got the impression it was more related to the unrealistic idea, in my opinion, that we have a lot of empty rooms and empty spaces within the district because our demographics have changed. And I think the suggestion there is that as we look out 5 years that our demographics are lowering, therefore we don't need certain space and certain expenditures that we're voting on. And I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that's what I took from that. So having said the demographic end of this, I would just ask that we reach back out and see if we can't get an answer. And if they're not able to do that, then we need, like, if you recall the the auditors. If you recall the audit, the board remembers it got pushed out each year, an extra month later. And we were right into voting on the first round of budget, and we still hadn't seen the audit.
Yeah.
We're kind of finding ourselves in the same place with a demographic study, and each board member or public can put whatever weight they want on the demographic study. To me, it's hocus pocus. You're looking out there saying this might happen in 5 years.
Yeah, I do know in speaking with him, he indicated that there's ebbs and flows with the demographic study, but nothing that he noted offhand that would be a drastic drop in enrollment that we would need to look and address our facilities. So I do know that we're looking for that report to make decisions on Eisenhower. More to come.
Right.
And I'll update the board as soon as I hear from him.
Yeah, and like I said to you, I understand the medical end of this. If you could just follow up and see if we can get a timeline and we get it posted on the website, and
Yes.
the citizens can believe, or the community can believe what they want to believe, and take whatever they want from it.
The report will come before the board before we post it to the website.
Okay, thank you, William.
Yeah, and I'll share that I've been in schools for 31 years, and a building principal for 10, assistant superintendent for 6. I've never been in a building that has an empty room in 31 years. I promise you, all of our rooms are used. So I would suggest if there are folks out there that can't sleep at night because they think that there are empty rooms in our buildings, my suggestion is call the school and get a tour. It's the easiest way to do it, but simply don't sit and try to compare 1965 programming with 2025 programming and think that they're equal. There are programs and services offered to kids now in schools that weren't around just 25 years ago. So it's an apples to oranges comparison. So we keep track of all of that and utilize the space instructionally the best we can.
Thank you, Jason.
Mr. President, if I could just make one more comment about the comprehensive plan. It is posted on the website. The plan itself is about 40 pages long, so we do have a very short summary page that's also on the website posted for the community, anybody who wants to review it. We did send a Google form out to all the parents once it was posted, inviting them to read both the plan and the summary form if they wanted and provide feedback. I did get feedback from 8 different stakeholders, just some comments about the plan. It does have to be submitted to the state in their portal by the 31st of March, so we plan to have it on as an action item for approval at the next board meeting. And I just want to take a second to thank the 20-plus members that were on the committee that met for once a month for 5 months to create the plan, and especially Al Moyer and Alice Broadway for representing the board. So thank you both.
Thank you. That brings us to board committee reports.
Yeah, Mr. President, we have a policy committee meeting, which will be on March 11th, always the second Tuesday at 4 p.m. here in the administration building.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding the legislative report, I would just piggyback off to Dr. Parent's remark, though. I'm reading tomorrow at Franklin Elementary, and anyone who has questions about our demographics, I'm pretty sure when I go to Franklin Elementary and roam around, there's not going to be any room that's not being used for a great purpose. I did want to report that Vanessa and I recently attended the Adams County Council of Governance, and Dan Mao was there in person, and Doug Mastriano and Torrin Ecker, their offices were represented. The focus was on the Adams County Technical Institute and where things stand right now. And I know Mr. Davis has been representing us on that group and doing a great job in that regard. The thing that I want to bring up that Dan brought up that I'm hearing for the first time is that there has been some push about the possibility of repurposing the North Hanover Mall. That's pretty much vacant at this point. And from what I understand, it's going to be even less occupied in the very near future. That possibly also the idea of satellite campuses where each of the schools in the county would have a certain couple of trades that they would host, and they would be using some existing buildings or buildings that could be repurposed that aren't being used anymore. I'm assuming, Mr. Davis, that you and the rest of the committee have looked at that. But what concerned me the most, though, in hearing from the legislators from Harrisburg, unless we have fully evaluated those things before we build a $70 or $80 million building that's going to really impact property taxes, I think it's going to be important that we meet with those legislators if we're going to get their support and have them work with Governor Shapiro. And I think all of us are on the same page and want to support the Adams County Technical Institute. And we all believe that the trades are really important and that we're turning kids away right now that would really like to go and get involved there. So I'm just, challenging all of us across the county that, and working with the legislators, we have a little work to do with them to make sure that we have vetted those things.
Can I just respond to that real quick?
You certainly may.
So I think that that we've shared with the legislators that all of the plans for ACTI that are in place right now in terms of future programming, future instructional space, future sites, those all came out of a year-long feasibility study. So the data that we're utilizing to kind of move those ideas forward was the data that was collected over that period of time, taking a look at like livable wage occupation areas that are useful for the county in terms of programming that the students might benefit from. So the feasibility study is kind of the benchmark for the future programming. We're certainly, as a county, are considering some vacant sites for construction, and one of the biggest things that we have to consider whenever we're looking at those sites is kind of the geographical center of the member districts. So, for instance, the Hanover Mall might be a great spot for Conewago Valley School District, not so much for Fairfield. So we found kind of a geographic center of the county, and it really kind of rides almost really along Route 15, just east of Gettysburg, not far from where the current ACTI building is, actually, in terms of geographically. So as you stated, we're looking at all of those variables, and with student programming driving any type of facility discussion, because the programming and what the students need instructionally is going to create the facility versus the other way around.
And Dr. Barrett, I appreciate everything you're saying, but I would also say that I think there's some work to do with our legislators, and if we're going to get some support from Harrisburg. The other thing I would say, Fairfield is, I'm a big fan of the Knights, and I realize that may not be that convenient for them, but the possibility of recruiting Hanover School District and Southwestern School District away from the York School of Technology also offers some possibilities. And I would just say, again, Vanessa and I just met with them very recently. There's some work to do there. So I think somehow, some way, we need to collaborate more with those legislators, and if we're going to get support on grants and some subsidy for the building or for our programmatic issues, we've got some work to do. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I played Powerball tonight just in case. I'll build it.
Jeremy?
Yeah, well, Al, you sort of beat me to it, and you kind of a little bit ahead of yourself here with some of these things. I want to give a quick overview. There's a lot of things flying around. People think it's really farther ahead than what it is with ACTI. We're really behind the eight ball, and I think everybody knows that. There was an authority put together 50 years ago, which is done expired. There's been another authority put together. We're doing a big injustice to these kids. 2022, they started kicking around the idea, or we started kicking around the idea of what it would look like to have a standalone ACTI. They got under the blanket, or out from under the blanket of Gettysburg, did a feasibility study in 2023. They presented that, I think, the fall of '23. They created an authority, which they would have to have if they were ever to do some kind of a land purchase. We are not anywhere. We are simply looking at what this looks like, and we haven't even had a chance. We haven't even had land brought to the JOC yet to even look at, to even begin to put numbers together. So whether it's a 50, 70, $80 million project, I couldn't even begin to tell you that. We don't even know what the 5 districts could afford. The JOC has been taking their time with this because they're trying to cover all aspects, and you're 100% correct. There's a lot of pieces of this that need to be looked at. There's a lot of misinformation flying around. They were given a $500,000 grant by the county commissioner specifically for the purchase of land. That wasn't to buy a building. If that was to buy a building, then that grant would have to be rewritten. It was simply a land purchase to do a standalone ACTI, because in the beginning, that's where it came from. That's how the whole thing evolved. No decisions have been made. The superintendents do not run Adams County Technical Institute. It is run by the JOC. The JOC asks the superintendents, who gather once a month, for their opinion on things. That's strictly where we're at this point in time. There is nothing more, there is nothing less. We have public meetings every month, and I would recommend that if you have questions, you have concerns, before you go and write stuff in the paper and write stuff on social media, come in and ask some questions. It's an open book. We're glad to answer anything that anybody has. We're there for the kids. We're there to try to build something better for this county, for this community, and we're trying to do it so where it doesn't kill our taxpayers. We have 5 districts that we have to look out for when we're doing this. It's not an easy process. We have spent a lot of time kicking around ideas. It's a drawn-out process. So I don't want anybody to think that we're farther ahead than what we really are, because we're not. We're not anywhere. We're kicking around ideas. We haven't even had a chance to put anything together. Once we do that, then we will make presentations to the 5 districts on what that looks like. The districts can ask questions. The districts can give, the boards can give their input, and so on and so forth. But all the stuff I've been seeing in this past week, it's absolutely ridiculous. It really is. Just come to a meeting. Just ask questions. I mean, I've had one board member attend a meeting. That's it. So before we get up here and we start talking, why don't you find out what it's all about first? Why don't you ask the people where it really matters first? And don't ask Dan Mao. Dan Mao thinks that's a great idea. I think Dan Mao is probably the only one that thinks that's a great idea. I don't think anybody else thinks it's a great idea.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, then you know more than I do, Al. So
I don't know about what the legislators are telling me.
I don't care what the
That's
it's good. That's all right. We're gonna move. We have kids in the room right now. We're gonna move forward with this. There's gonna be more to come with this. As we get some land brought to us, there will be a plan put together to not purchase anything, but a simple plan to bring to these boards. These boards can take a look at it, and the boards can collectively decide what's best for our students moving forward. So.
Hey, Jeremy, just to help out the interested public who might want to attend said meeting, do you know the date and time off the top of your head?
You have to get on and check it. It does change. Sometimes it's the 3rd, sometimes it's the 4th Wednesday. The 26th sticks in my head for this coming month, but don't honest to God, don't hold me to that. More than welcome. We would love, we get nobody to attend those meetings. I mean, these are our kids. We'd love to have people come and ask questions. We really would. We openly want people to come and ask questions. So.
Can I just say something about that?
Michelle?
So I was the one that went to the last JOC meeting. And Jeremy, what I'm hearing you say is that you guys haven't seen anything about ground, any land, any different properties.
Not yet. They're yet to bring that to us. We asked them to find it and to bring it to us.
Well, that was going to be my question, because at that meeting, what the superintendent from Fairfield had said was that the superintendents had been meeting with Crabtree and Werbaugh. And the question was brought up, who authorized them to speak to Crabtree and Rurball.
I think it was collectively done probably back in 22 or 23. I don't.
Crabtree Rurball is the group that worked with the superintendents and the director and the JOC on the feasibility study.
Yeah.
Crabtree Rurball has been a partner from the feasibility study on up through.
Well, the answer that was given, and it wasn't really an answer, but it was, well, we're not obligated to continue to work with them. Which I was like, well,
right,
so it was very confusing. Who authorized the superintendents to speak to Crabtree and Rurball, and who's paying for that? Because they're not doing that for free.
Actually, they are doing it for free.
They're doing it for free.
Then that needs to be said, that they're going to do it for free, because that would be surprising to me that they're going to do it for free.
A lot of
if
us
they don't think that they're going to get the contract.
Yeah, they're not guaranteed a building, like if we would find a piece of land and create a design and build, there's no guarantee that they're a part of that project. They simply were part of the feasibility study. We have most of the people in the county have great relationships with them because they're extremely prominent in building school facilities, and they're just good people. They want to help, so that's why they're there.
One other thing, North Hanover Mall is actually in York County. I don't think we should be putting Adams County dollars into York County.
I think there's a lot of people that agree with you on that.
Yeah. I think
Me being one of them.
Yeah,
I'll
that
just
would-
tell
that
you
would be
right out,
crazy.
I'm not a fan of that.
No,
So,
that would be crazy.
But doesn't sound like we're anywhere close to that anyway.
no.
Unless I
we
read
weren't.
social media, maybe.
So,
Okay. Anything additional?
If I may, the next meeting of ACTI is March 26th at 5:30 p.m.
Your wish might come true.
Then the only other announcement I had was just a reminder that this Friday is early dismissal for professional development, secondary, the normal 11 o'clock, elementary noon. Third quarter ends March 25th.
The next meeting will be March 17th at 7 o'clock. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?